Hello students, so today we will be starting with a new topic. The new topic name is human settlements. This chapter is present in the class 12 book of geography part B, and today we will be understanding what do you mean by human settlement. So let us discuss. You see human settlements. Here human settlement means cluster of dwellings of any type or size where human beings live. For this purpose, people may erect houses and other structure and command some area of territory as their economic support base. Now, if I talk about human settlement, you see where people live, where people reside is known as a human settlement, which means people are inhabiting in a particular place. It is known as human settlement. You see now, if I talk about our particular neighborhood, about our particular area, these are all termed to be as human settlement. Human settlement examples are considered to be a neighborhood as well. Also, on the other hand, human settlements are comprised in the towns and cities, which means different regions have different types of human settlements. Also, on the other hand, if I talk about human settlement is completely dependent on the nature and type and size of a particular place where the people are residing. Also, thus the process of settlement inherently involves grouping of people and apportioning territory as their resource base. So, human settlements means a group of people residing in a particular area. It is a particular territory where the people are using their resources according to their base. So, here, if I talk about human settlement, it is the process of settlement. Yes, it is a process of settlement where the people are living in a particular area, which means the grouping of people are there, and the apportioning, which means control of the territory as well. This is the meaning of human settlement. Also, on the other hand, settlements vary in size and type. They range from a hamlet to metropolitan cities. Now, if I talk about human settlements, they vary in size and type. They vary in size and type, and also they vary from villages to metropolitan cities. In villages also there are human settlements, and in other parts of the cities and towns also there are human settlements. Also, the economic character and social structure of settlements changes and do its ecology and technology. Settlements could be small and sparsely spaced. They may be large and closely spaced. Now, if I talk about human settlement, they are according to the social structure and characteristics of a particular area. It can be clustered also, it can be spaced also, which means it can be isolated also. Also, on the other hand, if I talk about human settlement, it is dependent on the social structure and the economy of a particular country or an area, which means it is completely dependent on the economy of a particular area. You see, the financial condition of the particular area also must be good so that humans can settle there. Also, on the other hand, the size also matters regarding according to the population of the humans. Also, on the other hand, it also depends on ecology and technology. Yes, it also depends on ecology and technology. Now, how will the humans be surviving in that particular environment also depends upon the ecology and the use of technology. You see, as our societies are advancing, as a result technologies are also in use. Also, on the other hand, settlements could be small and sparsely spaced. Now, if I talk about settlements, it could be small and sparsely spaced. It can be spaced also, like for example, it can be isolated, it can be too much overcrowded, so it depends. Also, they may be large and closely spaced. Yes, there are other settlements also which are fully grouped together, which means fully crowded. So these are all the examples of the human settlements or the types of the human settlements. Also, the sparsely located small settlements are called villages, specializing in agriculture or other primary activity. On the other hand, there are fewer but larger settlements which are termed as urban settlements, specializing in secondary and tertiary activities. Now, there are small settlements. If I talk about human settlements examples, there are small settlements as well, like for example, sparsely populated, very less populated. These are all villages. In those villages, agriculture is much common and other primary activities are much common. Also, on the other hand, if I talk about the cities and the town, the secondary and the tertiary activities are common. Now, what do you mean by the secondary and the tertiary activities? Which means the manufacturing process and the terms of transportation are mostly common among the cities and towns as well. But the primary activities, which are known to be the beginning of the activities, or you can say the agriculture, the mining as well, these are mostly among the villages. So these are the common terms which have been said under the human settlements. Here comes the primary activities under the small settlements, and urban settlements specializing in secondary and tertiary activities. I hope you have understood this one. Now, we will be understanding the basic difference between rural and urban settlement. Now, what is the basic difference between the rural and the urban settlement? Here you see, if I talk about the rural settlement are comprised to be the villages, and urban settlement are comprised to be the cities and the towns. So, the rural settlement derive their life support or basic economic needs from the land based primary economic activities, where urban settlement depend upon the processing of raw materials and manufacturing of finishing goods on the one hand, and a variety of services on the other. Now, if I talk about rural settlements comprise mostly of the primary economic activities. Yes, rural settlements mostly comprised of the primary economic activities first of all, and second of all, most of the economic needs are derived from the primary activities as well, such as agriculture and mining. Now, if I talk about the urban settlements, first we have understood about the rural settlement. Now, if I talk about the urban settlement mostly depend on the secondary and tertiary activity, which means manufacturing of the raw materials and the transportation of those products. These are entirely the urban settlements are entirely dependent on the processing of the raw materials and the transportation of those products. Also, manufacturing of finished goods. The manufacturing of finished goods has also been possible in the urban settlements itself. Now, cities act as a nodes of economic growth, provide goods and services not only to urban dwellers but also to the people of the rural settlement in their hinterland in return for food and raw material. Now, if I talk about the cities, what are the characteristics of the cities? What are the benefits of the cities? You see, cities are the connecting nodes. Cities are the connecting nodes to the villages and the towns as well. Why? Just because you see, most of the goods and services are being provided from the cities itself. Most of the goods and services are being provided to the cities itself. On the other hand, the rural settlements are also dependent on the cities itself. Now, if I talk about the people of the rural settlements, in return also, if the rural settlement, in return also they get goods and services if they work in the urban settlements or in the city itself. Now, the functional relationship between urban and rural settlement takes place through transport and communication network. Now, how the functional relationship between the urban and the rural settlement takes place? Through the help of transportation of goods and products, and also with the help of a connecting link with the transportation itself. You see, the transportation is a part of communication. With that communication process only, the urban and the rural settlement both connect with each other through the processing of goods and services or through the transportation of goods and services. Also, on the other hand, if I talk about the cities acts as a node of the economic growth. Yes, cities acts as a node of the economic growth between the rural settlement and the urban settlement. This is also very much important. And rural and urban settlement differ in terms of social relationship, attitude, and outlook. Rural people are less mobile, and therefore social relations among them are intimate. Now, if I talk about rural and urban settlement, rural and urban settlement differs. How this differs in terms of social relationship, in terms of outlook, as well as in terms of attitude. Now, if I talk about rural and urban settlement, they both differ in terms of social relationship, in terms of outlook, and also in terms of attitude as well. You see, both have a different attitude, both have a different social relationship. Also, on the other hand, rural people are less mobile. Now, if I talk about rural people, they are very much less advanced, they are less mobile, which means they don't travel from one place to another too much. But if I talk about the people of the cities, they are much more advanced, and they are the traveling people. They will be communicating, or they will be traveling from one place to another. Also, social relations among them are intimate. In urban areas, on the other hand, way of life is complex and fast. Social relations are complex. Now, in rural areas, you see the people life are very much you can say easy. The people lives are very much easy. Also, on the other hand, the social relations are very much easy, not much complex in comparison to the urban settlements. In urban settlements, the people relation are very much of a complex nature. The people relation are very much of a complex nature, and they are very fast. They are very fast, and they are very much of an advanced process, you can say. You see, in urban settlements, people have not very much time. They will be managing their own work. They will be busy in their own work. Unlike Unlike the rural settlement are mostly busy during the daytime, but during the night time they will be having some relation with their friends and family. So if I talk about the rural settlements and the urban settlement, their social relation completely vary. Now, types of rural settlement. As you have understood about the difference between the rural settlement and the urban settlement, we will be understanding about the types of rural settlement. Now, what are the types of the rural settlement? You see, types of the settlement are determined by the extent of the build-up area and inter-house distance. There are various factors and conditions responsible for having different types of rural settlements in India. Now, if I talk about the rural settlement, there are different types of rural settlements. Now, how those rural settlements vary? They vary according to their build-up area, according to their area, and also according to the condition of the area where the people are residing. Also, on the other hand, there are availability of physical features such as the nature of the terrain, altitude, such as the nature of the terrain, the altitude, climate, and availability of water, cultural and ethnic factors, social structure, caste, religion, security factors, defense against thefts and robberies. Now you see, if I talk about the nature of the rural settlement, here you see the altitude, which means the height of the area is very much important. Also, as a result, the nature of terrain, what is the condition of the land where the people are residing. This comes under the physical features. Also on the other hand, the climatic conditions also vary, and the availability of water is also much important. Now, if there is no water, people not be residing in that particular area. Also, the social structure such as the caste system is there. Also, on the other hand, the people's mentality also comes under the social structure and the security factors. Now you see, in most of the rural settlement, terrorism is much an important issue there. Terrorism is much an issue. People suffer from terrorism. As a result, those places are safe from thefts, robberies, and terrorism. This is also much of the important characteristic. So, rural settlement can be broadly classified into four types: clustered, agglomerated, or nucleated; semi-clustered or fragmented; hamleted; and dispersed or isolated. So today we will be understanding about the four types of rural settlement. First come the clustered, agglomerated, or nucleated; semi-clustered or fragmented; hamleted; and dispersed or isolated. So now let us discuss with the types of the rural settlements. Now, what are the types with the rural? What are the types of rural settlements? Now, clustered settlements. The cluster rural settlement is a compact or closely built-up area of houses. In this type of villages, the general living area is distinct and separated from the surrounding farms, barns, and pasture. The closely built-up area and its intervening streets present some recognizable pattern or geometric shapes such as rectangular, radial, linear, etc. Now, if I talk about clustered settlement are comprised to be the crowded settlement. You see, in the clustered settlement, all the houses will be together, clustered under one roof, or you can say in a particular area all houses will be gathered together and they will be having a separate farm or a barn. And also there can be a surrounding big land, so that all the people will be together farming on that big land, and there will be a surrounding barn will be there, pastures will be there. Also, you see there the roads are being compacted according to the villages itself. Now you see the roads are quite close to the huts, the roads are quite close to the houses. So in this way also these are termed to be as clustered settlements. Also, on the other hand, such settlements are generally found. Yes, such settlements are generally found in very in good areas. You can say like the alluvial plains are there. Such settlements are found in the alluvial plains itself, like in the northeastern structure. Now, if I talk about the clustered settlements are very much common in the alluvial plains, and most of the alluvial plains will be found in the northeastern states. Yes, in the northeastern states itself, the alluvial places will be found. Also, on the other hand, sometimes people live in compact village for security or defense reasons, such as in the Bundelkhand region of central India and in Nagaland in Rajasthan. Scarcity of water has necessitated compact settlement for maximum utilization of available water resources. Now, If I talk about clustered settlement, now why people live in groups, so that they can defend themselves from other theft and robberies. Also, they can protect itself. As a result, people will be living together. Also, on the other hand, you see the compact villages. If I give example regarding the compact villages, now Bundelkhand region of central India, this is another example. The Bundelkhand region of central India, and also in Nagaland, these are the examples of the clustered settlement. In Rajasthan, scarcity of water. You see, in Rajasthan, scarcity of water is the most important issue. Scarcity of water is the most important issue. As a result, people all live together so that they can use minimum amount of water together. Now, in Rajasthan, scarcity of water is a number one issue. So, as a result, maximum utilization of water resources can be done. For that reason only, people live in a particular area or in a particular group. Now, here if I talk about some of the example regarding the clustered settlement. Now, what do you mean by the clustered settlement? Which means all the people living in a group, or all the houses together living in one area on the alluvial plains, which are mostly common in the northeastern sites. Also, on the other hand, the Bundelkhand region of central India is one of the common example, and in Nagaland. Also, the Rajasthan also has the example of clustered human settlements, and other places. Yes, only Rajasthan. You see, those places which have scarcity of water resources, those places are mostly popular for this clustered regions. So I hope so you have understood regarding the clustered settlements. Now we will be understanding about the semi-clustered settlements. Now, what do you mean by the semi-clustered settlements? You see, semi-clustered or fragmented settlement may result from tendency of clustering in a restricted area of dispersed settlement. More often, such a pattern may also result from segregation or fragmentation of large compact village. Now, if I talk about clustered settlement means compact village, means all the houses, all the people living together. But if I talk about semi-clustered villages or semi-clustered settlement, which means different houses will be living in different areas, which means there is a division of all the houses, or you can say there is a division of a particular neighborhood. This is known as semi-clustered settlement. You see here, it is known as the semi-clustered or fragmented settlement. Yes, those fragmented settlement may result from the division of the neighborhood or from the division of different people. Now, it is being dispersed. Yes, it is also known as the dispersed settlement because different people are living in different areas. Different houses are present in the different areas of that particular region. So, clustered regions are together, but semi-clusters are different, which means they are being dispersed. More often, such a pattern may result from the segregation. Yes, in this case, one or more section of the village society choose or is forced to live a little away from the main cluster of village. In such cases, generally the land owning and dominant community occupies the central part of the main village. Now, here, if I talk about the semi-clustered settlement, which means the dominant area of the village will be living on the central part, and the remaining people, or the people who are of lower strata, will be living on the outer flanks. Yes, here if I talk about the semi-clustered region, the dominant part will be staying in the middle or in the central part, and the other part they will be living in the outer flanks. They will be living on the borders, or they will be living on the outer flanks itself. So these are the example of semi-clustered settlements. Also, on the other hand, such settlements are widespread in Gujarat plain and some parts of Rajasthan. Now, the examples are widespread in Gujarat plains. Yes, those settlements are mostly popular in Gujarat plain and in some parts of Rajasthan itself. So these are the semi-clustered settlement. One comes the clustered settlement, other comes the semi-clustered settlement, and mostly are the examples of the rural settlements. Now, here we will be understanding about the hamleted settlements. Sometimes settlement is fragmented into several units, physically separated from each other, bearing a common name. These units are locally called Panna, Pada, Pali, Nagla, Dhani, etc. Hamleted settlement is mostly common in our cities. How? The neighborhood. Like, I belong from a different neighborhood, you belong from a different neighborhood. These are known as hamleted settlements. Means they are very much of a fragmented settlements, which means those settlements has a particular name. Like, the settlements are being divided, and those settlements have a particular name, and those particular name can be termed as Panna, Pada, Pali, Nagla, Dhani. You see, different Indian will be pronouncing it in different names. So here the neighborhood can be termed as Panna, Pada, Pali, Nagla, Dhani, etc. in various parts of the country. This segment of a large village is often motivated by social and ethnic factors. Very, very important. In semi-clustered and clustered region, there is not much common of a social structure, but here the neighborhood is being divided according to the religion, according to the caste itself, which means according to the ethnicity, according to the culture, according to the caste itself, the neighborhood are being divided. Also, on the other hand, such villages are much frequently found in the middle and lower Ganga plain, Chhattisgarh and lower valley of the Himalayas. Now, the hamleted settlements. The hamleted settlements are mostly found in the lower and middle Ganga plains. They are mostly found in the lower and middle Ganga plains, Chhattisgarh and lower valley of the Himalayas. Middle and lower Ganga plains, Chhattisgarh and the lower valley of the Himalayas. These are the examples of the hamleted settlements. Now, dispersed settlements. Dispersed or isolated settlement pattern in India appears in the form of isolated huts or hamlets, a few huts in remote jungles or on small hills with farms or pasture on the slope. Extreme dispersion of settlement is often caused by extremely fragmented nature of the terrain and land resource base of habitable areas. Now, if I talk about dispersed or isolated settlement, dispersed and isolated settlements comprised of these isolated huts. Some of the houses are there who are not living in group, but they are living isolated. Like most of those houses will be found in the mountains. Those are isolated huts. Those are isolated houses. They will be living on the mountains or in a different terrain, which means they are completely different or completely separated from a group itself. These are known as dispersed settlement. Also, on the other hand, extreme dispersion of settlement. Extreme dispersion of settlement is caused by extreme fragmented nature of the terrain. Yes, how this dispersion takes place, this extreme dispersion. You see, according to the nature, according to the terrain. According to the terrain also, this dispersion takes place, which means when the terrain region is very much of an extreme nature, that time also this dispersed settlement takes place, and land resource base of the habitable areas. Many areas, like for example, here let me give you an example. The dispersed settlement example is Meghalaya, Uttaranchal, Himachal Pradesh and Kerala. These are the examples. First comes the Himachal Pradesh, then comes the Uttaranchal, and also Meghalaya, Uttaranchal and the parts of Himachal Pradesh have the example of the dispersed settlements. And the dispersed settlements are fragmented nature of terrain and land resource base of habitable areas. Now, they are fragmented nature of the terrain. Yes, they are fragmented. They have fragmented nature of the terrain and they have their own resource base, which means their resource base is completely vitable to the owner itself who are living in that particular area. You can see. You see, the areas are habitable. The areas are habitable. The terrain is habitable, but the people are living isolated. So this is the example of dispersed or isolated settlements. I hope you have understood. First, we have understood about clustered settlement. Second comes the semi-clustered settlement. Third comes the hamleted settlements, and fourth comes the dispersed settlement. I hope you have understood regarding the types of settlements. Now we will be coming into urban settlements. Before we have understood about the rural settlements, what do you mean by rural settlements? Which means they are the villages. Those villages are termed to be as the rural settlements. Now we are going into the urban settlements. Urban settlements here termed as. Urban settlements are generally compact and larger in size. They are engaged in a variety of non-agricultural, economic and administrative functions. Cities are functionally linked to rural areas and thus exchange of goods and services is performed, and sometimes directly and sometimes through series of markets and towns. Now, if I talk about urban settlements are compact, but they are larger in size. First, they are compact and they are larger in size, and they are, second of all, engaged in a variety of activities. Yes, they they are engaged in a variety of activities. They will be involving themselves in so many kinds of activities like secondary and the tertiary activities. Also, the cities are functionally linked. The cities are functionally linked to the villages. The cities are functionally linked to the villages. How? Through the transport and communication of goods and services. Through the transport and communication or the exchange of goods and services takes place between the cities and the villages. Also, on the other hand, it can be sometimes directly performed or sometimes indirectly performed through the series of market towns and cities. Yes, it can be directly performed or indirectly performed, but they have a proper link with the rural settlements as well. Now, evolution of towns in India. Now, how towns are being evolved. You see, there are historic towns, there are prehistoric towns. Now, towns have different varieties. Towns were being evolved during the prehistoric times. After the Harappan civilization, only there was advancement of the towns, you can say. Towns flourished since prehistoric times in India. Even at the time of the Indus Valley civilization, towns like Harappa and Mohenjo-daro were in existence. It continued periodic ups and downs until the arrival of Europeans in India in the 18th century. You see, towns are very much in common during the prehistoric times. Towns are very much common during the prehistoric times. During the Indus Valley civilization, also towns are very much common. There were periodic ups and downs. In Harappan civilization, towns are the massive characteristic. They are the most important characteristic of the Harappan civilization because towns are considered to be the advanced process. If I talk about towns, they are considered to be the advanced process of all time. Also, on the other hand, if I talk about towns, um, uh, it continued up to the 18th century. It continued up to the 18th century after the arrival of the Europeans as well. During the arrival of the Europeans, that towns are considered to be as the medieval towns. So here we will be understanding about the ancient towns first. Ancient towns. There are a number of towns in India which have a historical background spanning over 2000 years. Most of them developed as religious and cultural centers. Varanasi is one of the important towns among this. Others are Prayag, Allahabad, Pataliputra, Patna, Madurai are some of the example of ancient towns in India. Now, if I talk about the ancient towns have the historical background. They have their own historical background. Also, on the other hand, they are mostly developed due to religion and cultural centers. Yes, you see, during that time, they were mostly developed according to the religious and cultural center. Most of the towns are there which have been grown according to the religious and cultural centers. For example, the discovery of Hampi. Hampi or the Vijayanagara Empire was a very big town, and it is being considered according to the and it has been developed according to the religious sentiments, you can say. Also, on the other hand, Varanasi. Okay, one more thing. If I talk about the ancient towns are 2000 years old. Yes, very, very important. Ancient towns are 2000 years old. Also, Varanasi. Varanasi is there, which is the example of the ancient town. Yes, Varanasi is one of the most ancient town. During the British period, very before the British period, only Varanasi was still into existence. Also, here the other cities such as Prayag, Allahabad is one of the ancient towns. Patliputra, Patna is there. Madurai are some of the example of the ancient towns in our country. So you have understood about the ancient towns. Now we will be understanding about the medieval towns. Yeah, now you see about 100 of the existing towns have their roots in the medieval period. Most of them developed as headquarters of the principalities and kingdoms. These are fort towns which came up on the ruins of the ancient towns. Important among them are Delhi, Hyderabad, Jaipur, Lucknow, Agra and Nagpur. Now, what I'm saying about the medieval towns, there are total 100 of the medieval towns. After the ancient towns came the medieval towns. Those medieval towns are termed to be little bit of advanced, which means 100 of them are still into existence of the medieval towns. Now, most of them developed as the headquarters of the principalities and kingdoms. Most of the medieval towns. Now, if I talk about the medieval towns, most of the medieval towns became the headquarters of the kings or become the headquarters of the principalities, which means they are of high order. This four towns came up as the ruins of the ancient towns. Important among them are Delhi, Hyderabad, Jaipur, Lucknow, Agra and Nagpur. Now, they are the part of the ancient town itself. First came the ancient town, and those towns were converted into the medieval towns. Now the examples are Delhi, Hyderabad, Jaipur, Lucknow, Agra and Nagpur. These are the examples of the medieval town. Now the modern towns. Here the modern towns. Modern towns were being developed during the British period. The other European people actually developed the medieval town into the modern towns. The modern towns first came into existence during the 19th century. The British and the other Europeans have developed a number of towns in India, starting their foothold on coastal location. They first developed some trading ports such as Surat, Daman, Goa, Pondicherry, etc. The British later consolidated their hold around three principal nodes: Mumbai, Bombay, Chennai, Madras, Kolkata, Calcutta, and built them in the British style. Rapidly extending their domination over the princely states, they established their administrative centers, hill towns, as summer resorts, and added new civil, administrative, and military areas to them. Now, modern towns. If I talk about modern towns, the British people actually consolidated those modern towns into resorts, into some other places of parks, as well as new buildings had been constructed on those modern towns. Also, on the other hand, those modern towns were completely of the British style itself. Yes, you see, during the 19th century, our country was under the colonialism rule. As a result, it was completely under the British style. Also, on the other hand, some of the examples of the modern towns come here: the Mumbai, Chennai and Kolkata. In Mumbai, Chennai and Kolkata only the modern style approach took place. Also, on the other hand, towns based on modern industries also evolved after 1850. Jamshedpur can be cited as an example. Towns based on modern industries also evolved after 1850. Most of the modern towns, evolved after the 1850. They were mostly evolved after the 1850, and Jamshedpur can be cited as an example. You see, before Jamshedpur was a medieval town, slowly it has converted itself into a modern town. After the 1850 only, most of the modern towns were being developed. Those modern towns were being developed in other civil areas as well, like new civil, administrative and military areas. Now, after independence, a large number of towns have been developed at administrative headquarters, etc. Chandishkar, Bhubaneswar, Gandhinagar, Dispur, etc. and other industrial centers such as Durgapur, Bhilai, Sindri and Borani. As we have understood about the modern towns, slowly those modern towns converted into the industrial centers as well. Those converted into the industrial centers and other administrative headquarters. Here you see the example of the administrative headquarters. Now, what are the example of the administrative headquarters? Chandigarh is there, Bhubaneswar is there, Gandhinagar, Dispur, etc. These are the examples of the modern towns. These are the example of the administrative headquarters and industrial centers. Here the industrial centers were termed as Durgapur, Bhilai, and also Boroni. So these are the examples of the industrial centers. You see, Durgapur. This is one of the greatest example of the industrial centers, Durgapur. Also, on the other hand, some old towns and villages were converted into satellite towns around other metropolitan cities. Now, some old towns and villages. Now, if I talk about some old towns and villages, those were also converted into metropolitan city. Now here, if I talk about the metropolitan city, Kolkata, Bangalore, these are one of the example of the metropolitan city. Delhi also comes under the metropolitan city. So these are all the example of the metropolitan city. Chennai also comes under the metropolitan cities. So modern towns, some of the modern towns, the industrial centers were converted into the metropolitan cities. So we have understood about the ancient towns, we have understood about the medieval towns, the modern towns. Also, on the other hand, yes, we have understood about the ancient towns, the medieval towns, the modern towns, also the administrative headquarters and the industrial centers as well. Okay. So I hope you have understood regarding the human settlements, and if you want to know any of the courses regarding this institute, you can contact us in this number 8638391721. And thank you for watching my video.